The Swiss pikemen were among the most feared and respected soldiers of the late Middle Ages and early Renaissance, roughly from the 14th to the 16th centuries. They played a key role in transforming European warfare, particularly through their mastery of the pike formation and their fierce independence. Here's a detailed history of these formidable warriors. The Swiss Confederacy. The Swiss pikemen hailed from the old Swiss Confederacy, a loose alliance of Alpine cantons, regions, that united for mutual defense around 1291. The rugged terrain and lack of a powerful aristocracy created a culture of independent, self-reliant farmers and townsfolk who valued freedom and community defense. Early struggles, their military prowess was forged in conflict, especially against the Habsburgs, who tried to assert control over the region. Key early victories like the Battle of Morgarten, 1315, and the Battle of Sempach, 1386, showcased their tactical brilliance and raw determination, even when outnumbered. The pike weapon, a pike, was a long spear, often 15 to 18 feet in length, designed to keep enemies, especially cavalry, at bay. The Swiss refined the use of pikes in tight, disciplined formations, turning massed infantry into mobile fortresses. The square formation Swiss troops would form deep squares or columns, Gewalthaufen of pikemen, bristling with points on all sides. Their cohesion and aggressive tactics allowed them to break through enemy lines and even defeat heavily armored knights. Key battles and military campaigns. Battle of Morgarten, 1315. Swiss ambushed and routed a larger Austrian force using terrain and coordination. Battle of Alpine, 1339, demonstrated their ability to defeat feudal knights in open battle, establishing their reputation. Battle of Sempach, 1386, a pivotal battle where Swiss infantry crushed a Habsburg army, symbolized Swiss tenacity. Burgundian Wars, 1474-1477, fought against Charles the Bold, Duke of Burgundy. Battle of Grandson, 1476, and Battle of Nancy, 1477, showed Swiss dominance over professional European armies. The Swiss pikemen became the most sought-after mercenaries in Europe. They served in France, Italy, and the Holy Roman Empire. Their success inspired imitation across the continent, including the famous Landsknechte of Germany, the Sai. Development of gunpowder weapons and artillery began to reduce the effectiveness of pike tactics. Still, pike and shot formations, combining musketeers and pikemen, remained central to Renaissance armies until the 17th century. Trait description discipline. Rigorous training and tight formation discipline. Equality soldiers often elected leaders. No aristocratic dominance. Ferocity. Known for relentless charges and refusal to retreat. Versatility. Capable in mountains and plains, in both defense and offense. The legend of the Swiss pikemen lives on in the Swiss Guard at the Vatican, who still wear Renaissance-style uniforms inspired by the era. They influenced the course of European military history, breaking the dominance of mounted knights and paving the way for infantry-based warfare. The Swiss's elite mercenaries, 15th, 16th centuries. No money, no Swiss. By the late 15th century, Swiss pikemen had become Europe's elite shock troops for hire. Foreign kings and emperors, particularly the French, Papal States, and Holy Roman Empire, employed thousands of Swiss mercenaries in their wars. Swiss fighters were so highly regarded that the saying went, "No money, no Swiss." Service in the Italian Wars, 1494 to 1559. Swiss mercenaries fought in the Italian wars as premier infantry units. They often clashed with the German Landsknechte, who were trained in similar pike tactics. These battles were brutal, personal, and often decided by sheer grit. Notable battles. Battle of Novara, 1513. Swiss mercenaries defeated a much larger French army, showcasing unmatched infantry discipline. Battle of Marignano, 1515. A turning point where the Swiss were defeated by French forces using combined arms, artillery, cavalry, and infantry. Despite setbacks, Swiss mercenaries remained symbols of military excellence, feared and respected across Europe. Their martial culture was rooted in honor, discipline, and fraternity, often governed by strict codes among mercenary companies. Tactics and training formations were deep columns, sometimes 10 to 20 ranks deep. Front ranks used the pike, up to 18 feet long, while the rear pushed forward in case of gaps or deaths. Flanks were often supported by halberdiers or shorter polearm users to fend off closer melee threats. Unlike the English longbowmen or static infantry, Swiss pikemen favored fast, aggressive movement, often charging enemy lines head-on, disrupting formations before cavalry or artillery could react. The gunpowder revolution, as firearms improved and cannon became more accurate and mobile, tightly packed infantry blocks became easy targets. The rise of pike and shot formations in the late 16th century combined pikes with arquebusiers and musketeers, leading to new tactical models. After catastrophic losses and the moral decline of mercenary companies, Switzerland began to withdraw from foreign conflicts. The Battle of Baccaca, 1522, where Swiss mercenaries charged fortified positions and were mown down by gunfire, marked a shift in military thinking. The Pontifical Swiss Guard, established 1506. Still active today, this elite guard protects the Pope in Vatican City. Their colorful Renaissance uniforms honor their historical roots. Every guard is a Swiss citizen, trained in both modern and traditional arms. Swiss pikemen became national symbols of independence, military honor, republican values. They feature in art, folk songs, and monuments across Switzerland. Their legacy helped form the Swiss military doctrine of national defense through a citizen militia, still seen in Switzerland's modern conscription system. Army influence from Swiss pikemen, French Royal Army, recruited thousands of Swiss mercenaries. Formed Swiss Guards. German Landsknechte imitated Swiss pike tactics, but developed their own flamboyant culture. Spanish tercios used Swiss-inspired pike formations combined with musketeers. English and Dutch adopted flexible infantry tactics based on pike and shot models. The Swiss pikemen were not just great soldiers, they were revolutionaries in military history. They overthrew the dominance of feudal cavalry, proved the power of disciplined armed commoners, created a model for modern infantry warfare, left a legacy of civic militia, national defense, and elite soldiering. Their era may have ended with the rise of gunpowder, but the spirit of the Swiss pikeman, resilient, courageous, and fiercely independent, lives on in Switzerland's cultural and military identity. Culture and daily life of a Swiss pikeman farmers first. Soldiers, second most Swiss pikemen were free peasants and small landowners. Military service was not a profession at first. It was a civic duty rooted in defending one's canton or village. They lived modest rural lives in the Alpine valleys, tending cattle, farming, and participating in local assemblies called the Landsgemeinde. Brotherhood and equality units were organized around civic militias and local communities. Commanders were often elected by popular vote, and there was less rigid class distinction than in feudal Europe. Strong bonds of brotherhood, mutual trust, and communal pride were central to their cohesion. Arms and equipment. The pike primary weapon, a long ashwood shaft with a steel point, often 15-18 feet in length, used to repel cavalry, poke gaps in enemy lines, and protect musketeers in later eras. Secondary weapons halberd, a polearm with an axe blade, spike, and hook, used by officers or for close combat, short sword or dagger. Katzbalger, worn as backup. Crossbows, still used by some. Swiss before the rise of gunpowder weapons. Early Swiss pikemen wore simple chainmail or brigandines with iron helmets. Later mercenaries, 15th, 16th C, wore plate armor on the chest, arms, and legs. Helmets, open-face sallets, burgonets, or morions kit and uniform. Unlike feudal knights, Swiss pikemen had no standard uniforms early on. Mercenary companies later adopted bright colors and flags, often with cantonal symbols. Each soldier brought his own weapons and gear, a point of pride and identity, embodiment of freedom and independence. The image of the Swiss pikemen came to symbolize resistance to tyranny, their victories against powerful Empires like the Habsburgs and Burgundy became part of Swiss national mythology. Even after they ceased to be a military power, the idea of a citizen soldier defending his homeland became central to Swiss identity. The decentralized, republican nature of Swiss cantons was reflected in their military structure. The concept of militia-based defense persists today. Switzerland has no standing army, relying on conscription and reserves. Many Swiss towns have monuments to famous battles, like Morgarten, Sempach, and Grandson. The Swiss National Museum, Zurich, and the Bourbaki Panorama, Lucerne, include detailed exhibits on Swiss military history. Festivals and reenactments. Swiss cantons hold reenactments and parades, especially on Swiss National Day, August 1st. Events like the Fête de l'Escalade, Geneva, commemorate the spirit of civic militia. Swiss Guard of the Vatican continues to wear a stylized version of Renaissance Swiss mercenary armor, serves as a living tribute to Swiss military heritage. Summary timeline of Swiss Pikemen Year Event 1291. Foundation of the Old Swiss Confederacy. 315. Battle of Morgarten. First major victory against Habsburgs. 1386. Battle of Sempach. Swiss defeat. Habsburg army again. 276. 1477. Burgundian Wars. Defeat Charles the Bold. 506. Pope Julius II establishes the Pontifical Swiss Guard. 1513. Battle of Novara. High point of Swiss military dominance. 1515. Battle of Marignano. Swiss suffer major defeat. 1522. Battle of Baccaca. Death blow to Swiss pike dominance. Mid-1500s transition to defensive neutrality and militia-based defense. Final thoughts. The Swiss pikemen weren't just warriors. They were a movement, a symbol, of how ordinary citizens, united in purpose and trained in discipline, could defeat the greatest empires of their time. They changed how Europe fought, how armies were built, and how freedom was defended. Their legacy is alive not just in museums and pageantry, but in the Swiss model of citizen army defense, their continued neutrality, and their pride in independence.